Hi family, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in today. So in today's video we will be making a large quantity of puff puff. So we'll be needing an empty large bowl, and then inside our empty bowl we will be going in with our sieved flour. This is 16 cups of flour. So this is sugar. You will be needing 3.5 cups of sugar for that measurement. And then this is our yeast, right? I use royal yeast. So I measured 16 teaspoons of yeast for the 2 mudu of flour, which is 16 cups of flour, right? So make sure you're taking notes. And then I added 2 teaspoons of salt. Don't make my mistake, okay? You don't put your salt directly on your yeast. So that's why I immediately fluff it out. So you add a good amount of water. Don't put plenty water at the same time, sincerely. So just add a good amount, and maybe if it is not enough you can add it as time goes by. So at this point I am using my spatula to give it a good mix. Then this is a good time to add your flavors. So I added my vanilla, and I added, the quantity I added is like almost a full bottle, okay, depending on how you want it to come out, basically how rich you want it to taste. So I added almost full bottle, not, it was more than half. So the spatula was not doing the work I wanted at this point, so I had to go in with my hand. I washed my hand thoroughly, okay. So I was going in with my hand to make sure that there are no lumps and everything. I was just giving it a final mix, basically, so that everything will come together. And you can see that the bowl is kind of narrow, so I had to go in with my hand so I could mix everything together, because we don't want flour on the down part. So that was a consistency you should be looking out for, not too runny and not too thick. So I forgot about my nutmeg, and this is the point. I added my nutmeg, okay. I just use 1 sachet because you don't want it to be looking black. You don't want your puff puff to be looking very dark. So I added 1 sachet of nutmeg, and that should be like 1 or 2 teaspoons of nutmeg powder. So that was a brand. I used Tiger as a brand, and then again I went in to give it a good mix, okay. You don't want it to be settled in one place, so I actually took my time to kind of mix everything together, and I was making sure that my hand reached the down part of the mix, okay. So this is a consistency you should be looking out for in your puff puff. Then when you're done, you bring everything together. So at this point I went to get my cling film, and you use your cling film to cover in order to trap air. You don't want it to be open, you want it, the air to be trapped. That way your yeast get activated easily. Yes, I use instant yeast, okay, but this is one of the rule of baking, basically using flour and everything. So when I was done wrapping with my cling film, I used the cover. And when you're done mixing, you should be looking out for this, right? It should be able to double in size, and the minute you should allow it to last for should be around 40 to 50 minutes. Don't allow it to stay for 1 hour before you start frying, sincerely. Once it is 50 minutes and you see it has doubled in size, just open it. If not, it will give your puff puff, a taste that, it will seem as though it will over ferment, basically, and you don't want your puff puff to over ferment because it will smell. So at this point I started frying. If you notice, I reduced the heat at this point, okay, and that's what you should be focusing when you're frying your puff puff. Just make sure you're working with the heat. At some point you have to add, if not it will be like busting out if the heat is not enough. And if the heat is too much, your puff puff will burn, and you don't want your puff puff to be looking like a burnt sacrifice, basically. So at this point I was just frying, I was just going in. I would advise that if you're doing like a large scale, so today I'm making 400 pieces of puff puff. That was what the order said. And even though I add like few 2 to 3 cups so that my kids could get what to eat, Yeah, so at this point, let me allow you to listen to the sizzling sound. So nice. So that's the sizzling sound, and I enjoy listening to my sizzling sound basically. So you just keep giving it a good stir. Sincerely, just keep stirring, like using your spoon, not stirring, like using the back of your spoon to keep rolling it. You do the same thing with donuts too, but with donuts I think you have to use a skewer to kind of keep moving it all over. If not, your puff puff will have a very dark color. But maybe if you don't mind dark color, very dark color, then you can allow it to just, brown on its own. So at this point, I think I have gotten the color consistency that I'm looking at, and then you have to use low heat so that it can fry well. And now that it is ready, you could see me selecting. So the reason why I select is because when you start frying puff puff, basically you start scooping one after the other, and because you start scooping one after the other, so the first batch will most likely get ready before the rest. Okay, so in this case, and because of that reason, you have to now start selecting the ones that are ready, and then you start bringing them out of fire. You do that, you drop. And then the thing about making puff puff again in large quantity, I would advise that if you're doing it on a large scale, you get a bigger frying pan and bigger everything basically. That way it will be easier for you to finish up on time. But the downside of using a bigger pan is that you need to have an assistant, so that if one person is scooping in, the other person will be making sure that everything fry evenly. Okay, so that was me saying hi to you guys, and then I went on and on and on and on. At some point I was tired and I was like, who sent me? Like, it was a lot. I think I got close to 500 pieces of puff puff that day, because I added, in my measurements, I added like 2 to 3 cups extra so that my kids will get something basically to eat. Because whenever they see me frying, in short, once they see me in the kitchen, they will now come and now start asking, mommy, is the food ready? Or in this case, mommy, I want to eat puff puff. And since it is an order, I always make sure that I have or add extra flour so that there is something for them to eat. Okay, so this is the video, and yeah, everything fried evenly, and then I packed. So if you're in the city of Abuja and you want me to cater for your event, you can send me a message on Instagram. I'm Alheri Ebenezer, and all my social media platform. And thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly subscribe, give me a lovely comments, and see you in my next one. Bye for now.